Last time on Venom, right here at Comicstorian. Venom battled against a being known as Null, the god of the symbiotes, and he seemingly defeated him. But the dead body of Carnage was revived by Null as he sought out the codexes inside of anyone who has ever had a symbiote. You see, anyone who has ever had a symbiote has the symbiote still in their spine. And the dead body of Carnage and the Carnage symbiote were revived by Null to seek out those codexes, to gain ultimate power, and eventually touch God. Once Venom realized that Carnage was back, Carnage made his presence known by seeking out anybody who couldn't fend for themselves, who had a codex in their spine, killing multiple people, multiple helpless people, and when Venom realized what Carnage was doing, he went to Spider-Man for help, but they realized the worst thing ever. Norman Osborn thought himself to be Cletus Cassidy, and he thought himself to be Carnage ever since he's had the Carnage symbiote. Spider-Man and Eddie went to the mental institution that Norman Osborn was being kept in, but it was then that they realized that Carnage knew exactly where they were going, and he trapped them in the cell where Norman is located. You currently find yourself in the Comicstorian channel, where we dive into the lore behind your favorite pop culture universe, telling the stories within them, be it a comic book, video game, or movie, as an audio drama. And today, we bring you Absolute Carnage number 2. The door flies inward, and the creatures that have been overtaken by Carnage push their way there. The walls buckle as the monster that was Cletus Cassidy pushes past them, roaring at the two heroes, that they find themselves trapped! I'm kinda getting low on web fluid, Eddie. This is kinda... Spider-Man tells his former villain-turned-ally. We know. We can't win this, Venom says as his arm begins to morph. Spider-Man begins to fire his webbing, trying in vain to hold back the Carnage monsters. But Venom turns, his fist becoming a massive orb of hardened symbiote. With a mighty boom, the wall collapses outward into the rain-filled night. Come on! He cries over his shoulder to Spider-Man, but the web swinger has his hands full as the monsters overtake him. We can't leave Norman like this! He yells, realizing that Norman has been overtaken by the symbiotes that Carnage has been pushing out into the world to take over his minions. But Eddie isn't waiting around. He snags the hero with his webbing, pulling him free and yanking him through the exit that he made. He's dead and we have to go! Spider-Man dangles as Venom starts to lower them down, when suddenly the symbiote morphs again and great bat-like wings form out of Venom's back. Don't worry, Pete. We've got this. The wind and the rain rush past them as Venom flies away, with Spider-Man hanging from his arms. What is going on right now? I hate all of it! Spider-Man screams into the night, and back in the prison, the Carnage monsters watch through the hole that Eddie Brock created. Norman Osborn once again sheathing the piece of the Carnage symbiote, turning back to his new master. Why are we not following them? He questions, still thinking himself to be Cletus Cassidy. Carnage merely turns away. We are. There's nowhere that they can run, he tells his children. But Norman doesn't like that answer, preferring to run down his kill and slit their throats. The young wolf runs. He kills one. The old wolf walks, and he kills them all. Carnage watches as the risen corpse of Cletus Cassidy, the man that he believes that he is, walks away. What are you talking about? Meanwhile, in the distance, Venom swoops low over a rooftop, tossing Spider-Man to the ground. Spidey's screams are cut short as he rolls onto the ground as Venom collides next to him, and they both lay gasping for air in the rain. Eddie, what was that? What are we fighting? Spider-Man asks. The symbiote slides away from Brock's face, revealing a look of surprise and fear. I don't know, but I don't think we can fight it, Pete. Well, that's a bad attitude to have in the apocalypse, Spider-Man notes as he sits up. The two men sit there in the rain trying to come up with a plan. If they can't defeat Carnage, they just need to pull the codexes out of the symbiotes that he's bonded with. So Peter thinks that he should probably go deal with Captain America and Wolverine. They both have had a symbiote before. And I guess that I'll go talk to all the low-life criminals, psychopaths, and murderous aliens on the list. Cool. Eddie scoffs. Peter nods. It sounds like a plan. They get all of the people that they're trying to protect together, and then he thwips off into the night. But before he can leave, Eddie's phone buzzes in his pocket, and he picks it up to hear the sound of the Maker on the other line, and he questions if Dylan is all right. Yes, everything is fine. That screaming? Oh no, the boys are just watching television. the evil version of Reed Richards tells him. Maker lets Eddie know that he managed to hack the FBI database and learn something interesting about the mass grave of symbiote hosts that they found that set off this whole event. The body of Eddie's ex-wife and Dylan's mother, Anna Weying, wasn't in it. I believe that she passed her codex on to Dylan, Maker tells him. Your son is a target. Fear overtakes Eddie and he tells the Maker to let Dylan know that he'll be there soon, and he orders him to protect him. Nothing will harm the child while I stand in the way. You have my word. The call ends and Eddie looks back at the city before him. He can feel them. The infection that is the Carnage symbiote spreading and growing. They are moving through the city, hideous monsters. And deep beneath the city, Carnage sits on his throne in the spire. His creatures, his horde, move and they stir around him. And Norman stands by his side, wondering at the vastness around him. Irritated, Cletus turns to him. I'm trying to wrap my hands around the planet's throat, Norman! Do us a favor and shut up! He hisses, but Norman suddenly stops, turning to his new master. What did you just call me? Cletus leans forward, informing Norman that he's allowing him to believe that he is the real Carnage because it amuses him. But let's get one thing straight, he hisses as he wraps his claws around the man's throat, pulling the symbiote free so that he can look into Norman's terrified eyes. There's only one Carnage in this house! Norman struggles from where he fell, letting Carnage know that one day they will square up against each other so that all of the pieces of the Codex can be collected. And on the streets above, Miles Morales fights alongside the villain Scorpion as the horde swarms around them. Get behind me, he orders, but Scorpion just snarls as he continues to fight. Behind you? You ain't doing much better, kid. I can do this, Miles shouts, fighting off another horde, and finally he smacks them with a Venom strike that knocks the monsters away. Because I'm Spider-Man! He keeps hitting the monsters over and over again, but with everyone that falls, it seems that two more take its place. Scorpion suddenly breaks free, using Spider-Man as a distraction to get away. Sorry, kid. I know we used to be Venom and all, but I ain't no Spider-Man. Venom snarls a curse as Scorpion almost runs straight into him. He reaches out, taking Scorpion by the shoulders, throwing him back into the horde. We'll talk after I save the boy, but now you fight! He snarls when suddenly Carnage is there, his tentacles reaching out, grasping for Scorpion. No! Venom yells, trying to leap to the villain's rescue. Gorgon, get away from him! Carnage spins the criminal around, one of his tendrils morphing into a blade, and Scorpion sags as that blade pierces his back. Miles leaps in, trying to save him, his Venom strike knocking the symbiote clear of Norman's head, revealing the screaming madman. And as Norman is momentarily distracted, Venom tries to drag Gorgon free, but the villain can't stand. He can't feel his legs. His spine was just severed. Eddie lifts Mac to his feet, trying to clear the horde. The kid! Scorpion struggles, but Venom turns back, seeing the horde and Osborn focusing on Miles in their rage. Spider-Man reaches out his hand, fear in his voice as the creatures pour over him, and he calls out to Brock, Eddie, please, don't go! But Miles suddenly rises up, his voice changing as the Carnage horde bonds with him. We're just getting started! He laughs maniacally into the night. And that concludes Absolute Carnage, issue number 2. Now, we are moving what you would assume is at a slow pace with this storyline, but we're actually trying to give you as many of the tie-ins as we can and where they fit into the proper storyline. So, if you want to know what was going on with Dylan and the Maker, that's the next issues of Venom that we're going to be covering. If you want to know what's happening to Miles, well, that's the next issue of Miles Morales Spider-Man. And we still have that little story of what happened to Deadpool, because, you know, he had 5 symbiotes. The story's getting even crazier from here, folks, and if you want to get your weekly dose of absolute carnage, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we are trying to bring this to you every Wednesday, and I don't think we're going to have any more hiccups that require a maximum carnage filler. I hope you guys enjoy. And don't forget, if you want early access to this video and many others, subscribe to our Patreon or join our YouTube membership program. You can find the YouTube memberships down below and the Patreon in the description. For simply $2 a month, you get early access to everything that we create in all of our podcasts and additional projects. Either way, thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time right here at Comicstorian.